Hello, everybody, and welcome to an all-new episode of the Comic Force. My name is Tyler Riganti, and it is going to be a great show tonight. We have a special guest. We have the High Republic news, and we're going to discuss our brand new roundtable of the 2020 run of the Star Wars mainline. But before we do that, let's go around the room and introduce everybody. Emma, how are you doing? I really appreciate it's hockey night tonight on the Cosmic Force. You've got your Bruins gear. I've got my Lightning gear. How's it going?
It's great. Bruins are doing great. They advanced to the next round. We love that. I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm. Don't love that. But I'm really excited to talk about some comics tonight. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Our special guest tonight, because Caleb is at Batu right now, I believe. So we have filling in for him tonight, the one, the only Eric Eilersen. Eric, how's it going tonight?
It's going well. I did not wear anything for hockey night, but I want to say the Red Wings used to be good, and I lived in Michigan for like 26 years, and for 25 of those years we made the playoffs. So
they were
I pull back.
They were my favorite hockey team growing up, because the Lightning weren't good back then, and I could only get to see them. So
all about Eiserman and Fedorov, baby.
Oh,
that's
yes.
what it was.
Oh, yes.
Glory days. But I'm doing well. We got High Republic news, man. I'm ready.
Yes, we do have High Republic news. So we're gonna skip our next host's hockey team, because nobody wants to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes because they're going to lose the Lightning anyway. Jacob, you went to a hockey game this week, right?
I did go. I went to a hockey game last night. It was my first NHL game. I grew up in Indiana, so we don't have hockey there. Although our one claim to fame is we were the first team that had Wayne Gretzky on it. So checkmate the rest of the Oilers. I don't know, whatever. So but yeah, the Canes won last night. It was a cool game. Went to overtime, our third straight overtime game, which definitely didn't have to do like an hour and a half of work when I got home, but it's fine. But yeah, so I went to a game. I got Tyler a puck of, again, greatest team in the NHL right now. That's definitely not going to lose next round. But yeah, so overall, pretty good. And I was going to wear my sweater, but I got my new High Republic t-shirt in, so
very nice.
I kind of had to.
We've got to balance the sports talk and the comics talk, because normally those two populations don't gel well. So we got to make sure we limit that amount of talk.
But we do have Eric, so if you're going to do Star Wars and sports, we have the right guy on the show today.
Oh, yeah.
Fun, because
we
have
anything is.
I was gonna say we got hockey in Star Wars on this show. They have like Premier League soccer in Star Wars on Conjure Book Club, and then you have only me yelling about the NFL and Charles yelling about the NBA.
Nobody wants to hear about the Dallas Cowboys, so we're just gonna go ahead and move on.
There's
we
videos!
are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here every night on youtube.com/utini. You can check us here every night live, Wednesdays at 8. And if you can't join us live, that's okay. We are on all of your podcast networks, as well as the videos are here anytime that you want here on YouTube. We also have a very large 1,000 member Discord channel at the link. I don't know. Eric's in my ear making noises, and he's all messing me up. I take a week off, and then I come back to Eric, and that's everything is all over the place. So in addition to Discord, we also have Patreon, patreon.com/utini. That's the link I was trying to say in the last segment. For as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community-involved activities. So we are going to get right into it now, because just before we waited with bated breath for what, Eric?
Like
3
9
hours?
hours.
Oh my
it was
gosh.
all day.
Luckily, it did launch. The High Republic show did launch before we came on, because we got comic news. Jacob, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we are getting this fall?
Yeah, so we had just announced, like an hour ago now, that Daniel Jose Older will be writing a new High Republic miniseries with Marvel called Trail of Shadows. So we got the little key art for that here. Came out at the end of the show. I know we're all super excited to get more High Republic comics, again, from such a great author who's been really killing it with the High Republic Adventures line so far.
Yes.
But so we know that the pencils for the series will be by David Walker, and colors by Giada Marchisio, and the covers are by David Lopez. And the art that we saw there was actually from the variant for issue number 1 by Ario Anandito and Rochelle Rosenberg, who of course are doing the art for the current High Republic Marvel series with Cavan Scott. And it's supposed to follow the events after the Republic Fair, so that after basically the next wave of novels, and it's going to revolve around Jedi Emeric Kaftor, who's investigating a strange mystery, alongside a private detective, Cyan Holt, who's been hired by Chancellor Lena So, and it's been described as kind of like having some X-Files dynamics between the two of them. So it's dropping sometime in the fall, so I'm sure we're all gonna be very excited about it. I mean, now in the fall we have probably Monster at the Temple Peak.
Yeah,
like
plus,
August, September-ish.
Yeah. Plus we got the manga, the first edition of the manga coming out in September. So it's gonna be a pretty packed time for High Republic comics outside of the regular 2 runs.
Yeah,
I think it's
awesome.
I am more excited about this round than I was for the first round of content.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
the first round was so good. I mean, that's Eric. I know we weren't around when the first wave of content
Right.
came out. So I'll have to defer to you about the hype of all that. But what are your thoughts on this next round of content between the comics and the books and everything?
I mean, I'm just amazed by it, frankly. I think that it's so cool that they're bringing back a lot of the creators that were on the first wave, but also dabbling in a couple other new people, really making like a family of High Republic, which is great. And today actually lifted the embargo on the first 3 books that went out: Rising Storm, Race to Crash Point Tower, and Out of the Shadows. And obviously, as you all know watching, we at Utini don't review until day of release because we want to make sure it's a little more like when you're going to get the book, you read our review and stuff. But on Twitter today and on YouTube, I mean, the reviews were amazing. Alex
Right.
Damon over at Star Wars Explained said he thinks the wave is overall better than the first wave, which is just incredible. And I like that we have people going to different mediums. I mean, Daniel Jose Older going from Racer Crash Point Tower to High Republic Adventures now to this is going to be super great. And bringing in guys like David Lopez, the cover artist, was a Marvel Comics guy back in like the early mid 2000s. I used to like a lot. So it's just really cool that they're continuing all of it. And I have been lucky enough to start Rising Storm myself. I don't read as fast as everyone on Twitter, but I can say that if what I've read so far is any indication, it's going to be incredible. This whole initiative is somehow even better than we had hoped, and I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, and there's a great write-up on StarWars.com, of course, in addition to the High Republic show. So if you want to check out some more details, get some nice, cool art of Cyan Holt and Emeric Kaftor.
Oh, sick! Love that.
You can check.
And I
that
do
out.
encourage you. I do encourage you to go back and watch the High Republic show episode 3, because they do have a little segment that features a comics team and features kind of like their process and everything. So you are here watching a Star Wars comics podcast and video. I encourage you to head over there, show that team some support. They are knocking out of the park with the content, and I'm super excited about that. So we are going to try to go through our intro very quickly because we've got a roundtable to talk about, and we want to go ahead and get into that. But before we do, we have our weekly pull list. So Jacob, we've got a couple things coming out this week. So what can people expect to find at their local comic store this week?
All right, so I definitely didn't just realize that I forgot to write down the details for Darth Vader, and I just have the details for Dr. Aphra twice. But here we go, pulling it up on the fly. So we have Darth Vader 2020 issue number 12, written by Greg Pak and art by Jui Villanova. He's actually a plug-in artist for this issue. Letter, as always, Joe Carmanga. Cover by Richard Isanova and Aaron Cooter. So that's going to be the prelude into the trap. It's the next part of, the next prelude for, of course, War of the Bounty Hunter. And then we have Dr. Aphra. Oh, well, I just realized that I did write it down and I put the wrong title on it. So, that was all correct. There we go.
You're killing it. You're killing it.
Dr. Aphra number 10. I am all over the place today. Is
too much excitement,
Yeah,
that's right.
Too much trying to scramble and make all of that High Republic news fit in the show an hour ago.
When
but-
news breaks an hour before the showtime, this is what you get. People.
Yep, there you go. So, Dr. Afro 2020, issue number 10, Prelude, The Invitation. The writer is Alyssa Wong. Pencils by Ray Anthony Height. Cover by Sway. Inker is Victor Olazaba. Colorist Rochelle Rosenberg. And letterer Joe Carmanga. And then lastly, this is one I actually missed on my first run-through, was we have a new IDW comic coming out today.
Oh, yeah.
It's Star Wars Adventures,
That
The
looks
Weapon
nice.
of a Jedi, number 1. This is going to be issue 1 of 2. Written by Jason Fry and Alec Worley. The artist is Rory Coleman, and the cover is by him as well. So this is a English translation of a German comic adaptation of a junior novel. So,
Whoa.
yeah.
That old thing.
Yeah. So, I have not read this, the novel or obviously the German comic. But yeah, I guess, pick it up. It's only 2 issues. I think the next one comes out in June is what I was seeing. So, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it popped into my Comixology today, but I haven't had a chance to read it. It looks really interesting.
Yeah, I started the junior novel. That was it was Weapon of a Jedi, Smuggler's Run, or Smuggler's Bounty or something. It was like the 3 small novels in the Journey to Force Awakens junior
Right.
novels.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that Jason Fry wrote. And they weren't quite as good as like the Justina Ireland junior novel, like Spark of Resistance, things like that. But I think in a comics form, it could be really interesting. So yeah, definitely. I got to go back and get that one.
Oh, I think
All
we're gonna
right.
hop, and of course, as always, well, except for Star Wars Adventures, all of the Comixology links for those are in the description.
Boom.
So now let's go ahead and discuss what we are loving this week. I'll start with my art of the week. This is from Darth Vader, the 2015 run. This is issue number 1. The artist was Salvador LaRocca, and the colorist was Edgar Delgado. This was a really interesting issue because there's a lot of this contrast between a past and the present and the colors and the timeline, and there's a good 4 or 5 pages of this sort of really good storytelling with a minimal amount of letters and a lot of art, and it really popped out to me when I turned the page and saw this. So I thought this was a really cool thing. I'm really liking the art of this run better than the other run. Charles Soule run, the story in there is fantastic, but I think the art of this run is maybe a little bit better. So I've read this, and I've read the second trade paperback. So I'm going to hopefully continue that into next week. We'll see how it goes. Emma, what do you have this week?
Yeah, so my art of the week is from Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, number 1, with art by Juan Frigri. And I really loved the art style here. It's almost like kind of minimalist, but not, I don't think that's the right word to describe it. I don't know. It's very cool. And we have Darth Maul helping leave prison with, let's see, that's Gar Saxon and Rook Cass. So some really awesome Clone Wars tie-ins here with episode or season 7 especially, and this whole comic miniseries I think is severely underrated. And
Oh, absolutely.
I enjoyed it a ton. So, and great art too. So I love this page here.
Maul is
Jacob,
one of my favorite characters. So having him
yeah.
featured is like this is great.
It's funny because like Darth Vader, Darth Maul, all of the Darths, they translate really well in the comics. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's actually Darth Maul off of the Living Force winning Darkseid draft team, if I remember
That's
correctly.
right.
That's right.
It's funny you bring that up because that's also on my Carl comic draft list for last week. So
Yes,
Look at that. He's won all the drafts.
Maul's
He's won it all.
the draft
Right.
king.
So
He's
you
draft
you-
kings.
are you admitting
The
that
MVP.
I won last week, or
I think
I'll take
so.
that.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll
there's
see
no
it.
winners. No. but maybe. Jacob, what's your art of the week?
So I saw this and I just like couldn't not feature this ridiculous like comical panel from Vader Dark Visions number 2.
Oh my god.
This is
That's
art by
incredible.
Brian Level, and yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. It's a Imperial Star Destroyer ramming through an Exogorth, or AKA the Space Slug. And that's, I mean, I don't really know if I need to say anything after that. It's just like,
It's pretty straightforward.
just look at it. It's
That's
ridiculous.
wild.
You
The crazy-
you have my attention.
Yeah, it's like this like the premise of the story is an Imperial officer fails Vader, and he knows what is the cost for failing Vader, so he puts his crew through everything possible, basically driving them to their death to try and make up for this mistake. So when a rebel U-wing flies into this the space slug, well, he's chasing right after it, and yeah. So that's what that looks like. It's insane. But yeah,
Jeez.
Vader Dark Visions is a mini series of comics written basically from the perspective of like regular everyday people who interact with Darth Vader or see Darth Vader at some point, and each different issue is by a different artist. So kind of cool concept, even though not all the issues are equal in quality. We'll go with that. So, but yeah,
there's
is
there's
I
a
know
little
which
bit
one
of
you're talking
talk
about.
it.
I
Great
read
though.
that and
This
I
was
was
a
like,
great
oh,
issue.
I read that issue and I was like, oh no. But this one's pretty cool. This one's interesting.
Yeah.
So, Eric, what about you? What do you got?
So mine is from the High Republic Adventures from the recently mentioned Daniel Jose Older writing, and this page is by Harvey Tolabau, who's the artist. And this is just a giant freaking space battle from the High Republic Jedi against the Nihil. And I picked it because it's just so exciting and kinetic. And I think that the High Republic comic in the main line gets a lot of credit and a lot of kind of praise, as it should. It's brilliant. I love it. But sometimes the High Republic Adventures for like older readers doesn't necessarily get as much respect. But I want to show you like, this is what it's like. This is the art. It is just freaking gorgeous stuff. The ship designs are great. The battles are super fun. And the issues in action are really, really, really super solid. So just want to put a little spotlight on the High Republic Adventures there.
Yeah, it's a great series with some really great art, as you can see there. My gosh, I love a space battle, but High Republic space battles, oh my god.
So good. So good.
So good. So good. So we have a community submission for Art of the Week. This is from Aiden, aka Jedi Pig in Discord. Thank you so much for your submission. This is from The Last Jedi adaptation number 6 with pencils by Michael Walsh. So Aiden, congratulations. You have a free comic code. Reach out to us in Discord. This is gorgeous with the sunset, with the ATM 6s. It's just wonderful. I love it.
Yeah,
love it. Great pick.
Even from like a non-art perspective, I think The Last Jedi adaptation is by far my favorite of the 2 sequel Marvel adaptations. I think
I agree. Yeah.
They added not even just the 2, adding the anthology movies. I think they did a lot more, especially with adding to Luke's mentality and like his inner struggle during this movie. I think it's fantastic and definitely would recommend people reading it.
Yeah, and fun fact, I actually met Michael Walsh at a Comic-Con in 2015, I think, or 2014. He was a small artist, indie guy at a table in Toronto, and I paid him like $40 for a Nightwing sketch. And I'm like, this guy is awesome. And I'm like, I still have it in my book. And then the next year I got another sketch. And I'm like, this guy's going places. And then now he's drawing The Last Jedi. So I was like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Great
what a
dude.
story.
Great guy.
It's
amazing.
that meeting that led him into Star Wars, or at least
that
that's
was
what you
it.
can
He's
tell
like,
yourself.
okay, there's
Exactly.
something. There's something.
It was the Force, Yeah. It brought you guys together for a reason.
We all know.
So yeah, thank you for your submission, Aiden. Message us in Discord for your free comic code. And if you out there want a free comic code, just send us your art. It's that simple. There's some great submissions, and we love to see your submissions too.
We had a lot of them this week too.
We did. It was tough to pick, but yeah, keep sending them in. We love it. So
All right.
Tyler, I think we're going to move on to what we're reading this week. I think we're going to start with you. What are you reading?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been reading the 2015 Darth Vader. I've gotten the first two trade paperbacks. I have somewhere over here in my madness of notes and books, I've got the Vader Down. I picked up Vader Down after we discussed it in the last episode that I was on. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. And then War of the Bounty Hunter. Lots of preludes and prequels out, and all the lines are the comics are titles are lining up. So kind of getting all that ready, and then of course getting ready for tonight, reading the Star Wars 2020 again. So lots of good high quality content. I recommend any one of those titles if you're looking for something to read. So Emma, what about you?
Yeah, I haven't been reading a ton this week, and then I say that, but I actually kind of did read a lot. I reread the issues for tonight, and then I read Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra from today. which I enjoyed. And then that's about it. I've been working on a video that I'm going to tease for tomorrow. It's releasing tomorrow.
Ooh.
I like it.
So I've been editing that like all day today, and sort of been writing the script for that and working on that. So that's kind of been my week. But I'm really looking forward to diving into more Star Wars Archives. I really love that book. It's amazing. So I'm excited to dive further into that. That's kind of in my to be read pile. Yeah. So that's what I'm reading. Jacob, how about you?
Yeah. So, by the way, every time you say your Star Wars Archives book, I just always assume you're talking about the podcast, and it's very.
I did too. I'm like, great plug. Yeah.
I will
yeah,
plug
Star
them
Wars,
though. It's a
Star
great
Wars
podcast.
Archive, yeah,
It
the
is a great
UT
podcast,
Podcast
yes.
Network with Trev and Jose. Great podcast. But yeah, no, I really did not read this that much this week. I read this volume for the first time. Definitely didn't just finish it. I finished it on Monday and made the show notes on Monday. So yeah. And Corey read what was it, Into the Dark in one day, basically like 2 days before the Roundtable. So that's me this week. But it was enjoyable, and I guess yeah, we'll talk about it in a little bit. So, Eric, what have you been reading?
Very similarly to you, the only comics I have really had time to read are the Star Wars comics for today. And then, of course, the new releases. I always try to keep up with those. And as a minor flex, I've been reading Rising Storm because I did get sent the advance. So that is, I'm trying to get that ready for next week or next. Wow, no, next month. Easy now.
False alarm.
Yes, but it is, again, as I said earlier, it is very easy to do. It has been obsessing my mind and everything that I exist, which is why, again, I'm repping my High Republic shirt. And I'm all things High Republic now. I am probably boring to talk to my friends asking about Star Wars outside of Utini. So I'm like, have you heard about these new books? So that's my reading pile lately.
Well, we have to do that because they need to be ready. They need to read everything before the second round of books comes out.
That's right.
So.
They got to know.
All right. We are going to take a quick break. And then when we come back on the other side, we are going to talk the Star Wars Mainline 2020 trade paperback number 2. So we will be right back.
All right. So for our audio listeners, we just saw an awesome new merch ad from Jose. Thank you, Jose. And yes, you saw right. That is Cosmic Force merch. You can get your own Cosmic Force merch.
All right.
You can get a t-shirt and a bag and a sticker. And by the way, I have one of those bags. It has the Utini logo on it, but it's the same size, and it is perfect to pick up your pull list, just FYI. So utini.com/merch, and it's so exciting to have our logo on a shirt, you guys, right?
It looks so cool, guys. Like it's so awesome. Like,
yeah, Jose did a killer job.
I love them. I love it.
Killer.
Jose is great. Absolutely. And you know what else is great? I'm going to try to pull off an Eric Eilersen segue here, and we're going to go right into our book roundtable this week.
Yes!
So hopefully I didn't stumble over my words too much there. But this week, Star Wars Mainline 2020 trade paperback number 2. Before we get into the details of this book, let me go ahead and give you kind of a recap of who is behind it, and then and who's writing it, and the creators behind it, and then Emma is going to give us a little bit of a recap of the story so far. So, the mainline Star Wars comic is written by none other than Charles Soule. Penciler is Ramon Rosanas. The inkers are is also Ramon Rosanas. The color artist is Rochelle Rosenberg, and the letterer is Clayton Cowles. And so, Emma, why don't you set the stage for us and kind of give us a little bit of a recap of the first 6 issues?
Sure. So this series takes place directly after The Empire Strikes Back, which is, by the way, a super fun time period to be exploring. I love it. So the beginning of this series takes place within Empire Strikes Back, like right before Luke gets his new hand. It's really cool because, we kind of see like this big space battle before Luke gets his new hand. And we would have never known that if we didn't have these comics. That's why it's so cool. So in this first arc, everybody's kind of like gripping with the fallout of The Empire Strikes Back. Like, The Empire Strikes Back was a pretty traumatic movie for everybody. I think it's safe to say. So the Empire, under the lead of Commander Zara, is hunting down and picking apart the scattered rebel fleet, and they've cracked the rebel code. So anytime that a rebel cell contacts another rebel cell, the Empire is able to track them, and that is no good. Leia's rebel cell decides to enact Operation Starlight and save the remaining cells. The main crew heads back to Bespin for Luke to search for his saber, hopefully not finding his hand. That'd be pretty gross. Lando goes there to rescue Lobot, and Leia goes there to figure out how to dethaw Han, for a lack of a better term. Luke follows a vision of a new saber and runs into Verla from Dark Lord of the Sith. She nearly kills him when she discovers that he's the son of Vader, understandable, but sends him on his way to find his next saber. Luke fights the ghost of the Grand Inquisitor, which was awesome, and comes away with a Temple Guard saber. So that is the first arc. And now we are about to discuss the second arc. Yeah, there it is. The Temple Guard saber.
This boy right here.
Wow, look at that.
Little did I know when I bought it that it's actually a Luke Skywalker saber.
There you go.
Code.
I love that. Very awesome. But before we talk about this second arc, let's everybody rate it first. I guess I'll go first, and I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was really, really solid. And I'm also reading that we're supposed to not give much explanation, so I'm going to stop myself. Tyler, how about you go next?
I'm gonna go a little higher. I really enjoyed the first arc. As I said in a couple episodes before when we were talking about the character comparisons, this arc has kind of really moved Lando up in my likable characters. So I'm gonna give this a 9.5 because this is a really fun story. Let's go to the guest tonight, Eric. What are your thoughts?
Man, I'm gonna split the difference a little bit. I think I'm gonna give it an 8.75 is what I'll do. Again, not too much explanation. I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the throwback to High Republic, obviously, with Starlight, and all the stuff with Kess and Shara really hits me where I live, as I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess it's my turn. I don't know. I was thinking slightly lower, but now, even though you guys haven't given much, I'm thinking I'll at least start with an 8, and I will probably be very easily persuaded to go higher. So
solid.
It was enjoyable. I don't know. It's a little weird because we'll get into it, but this was kind of split into 2 mini arcs, so that kind of changes things a little bit. But yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I still give it an 8, and I mean, I'd take an 8 out of 10 in school any day. But yeah,
that's the law school talking right there.
There you go.
But yeah.
All right. So Emma, why don't we go ahead and dive right into it? And why don't you go ahead and give us the summaries for, let's go issue 7 and issue 8.
Yeah, so before I start, issue 7 and 8, like Jacob said, they're kind of like 2 mini arcs. So 7 and 8 are called The Will of Tarkin, which is a super cool name. And then speaking of cool names, 9 through 12 is called Operation Starlight, which, yes, it is a reference to the High Republic. So yeah, I'll summarize The Will of Tarkin. So issue number 7, here we go. Commander Zara is about to set out to take down the next 2 cells, one of which is under the command of Leia. They've found them based on communications. In Zara's past, she was recruited by Tarkin to be his personal protege. There was a very cool scene with them on Iriadu, which is Tarkin's homeworld, kind of testing some recruits, and Zara's just like totally menacing, and it's scary. So her last mission for him was a failure, and she set off in disgrace before the Death Star was blown up, which makes her have quite a grievance towards Leia because of the rebel plans, and now her mentor's killed, but he never knew that, she actually turned out okay. And so yeah, she's not too happy about that. I don't blame her. So issue number 8, we have Commander Zara deciding to lead a boarding party to go after Leia in the heat of battle, which is very unusual for a commander to do. However, while she's away, the rebels are finally able to deploy their fighters and turn the tide. So she must return as her forces escape. So she's only able to injure Leia very slightly, but isn't able to kill her like was her ultimate goal. Tyler, how about issue number 9 and 10?
Issue number 9 kicks off the Operation Starlight arc on this, and that is when we finally learn the nature of Operation Starlight, and that C-3PO, our favorite protocol droid, has developed an idea for an unbreakable code, but they will need to an ancient protocol droid who knows a dead language to create it, because they need to figure out a way to re-encrypt their communications. Lando is able to smuggle Kes Dameron and the Pathfinders to Coruscant so they can steal this ancient droid from an Imperial museum, and things of course don't go as they expect, and there's a little bit of a casualty. Somebody actually gets left behind, but they don't want to make their sacrifice in vain. But unfortunately, the droid that they're able to get the droid, bring it back to the fleet, but the droid turns out to be corrupt, and Lobot is needed to be able to stabilize it, and so that they can actually get to work. But before they get to work, a droid who has some aggressive negotiations with the fleet, and decides that if I'm going to do this work for you, you're going to need to do some work for me. And they finally agree, and the newly formed Starlight Squadron, under the command of Shara Bey, heads out to spread the code to the other cells. But unfortunately, it turns out to be a trap.
It's a trap.
Back at Leia's,
It's a trap.
it's a trap. There we
go.
go.
We legally have to do that.
Yes, of course.
Back at Leia's ship, it turns out that the process of keeping the ancient droid running is quickly killing Lobot. Lando tries to intervene, but Kes is not having that at all. And is not going to let anything happen to the mission or Shara Bey, because obviously that's his wife, and his wife comes before a Lobot. So that is how we end issue 10. Eric, let's go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you so you can provide the summary for 11 and 12.
All right, we end the arc with 11 and 12. In issue 11, in true comic book fashion, C-3PO is able to reverse engineer the code needed, and they're able to get rid of the old droid and his manipulations. And it turns out Lobot was never in any serious danger, again, thanks to our friendly golden boy. But Starlight Squadron has a crazy fight within a Star Destroyer hangar. They all, however, manage to escape, with the unfortunate exception of Shara Bey, Poe's mom, Kes's wife, leader of Starlight Squadron. She's left behind. Issue 12, Leia and Kes Dameron have a really beautiful heart-to-heart. It's kind of an intimate issue where they both discuss their feelings. It's split up into 2 parts, with Kes talking about how he met Shara Bey through a bit of a street race and betting on her in a weird way. And then Leia tells a really endearing story about Han being selfless, how he hates the cold, he hates everything about Hoth, and yet he did a lot of great things to sacrifice so that the rebellion could keep going forward. At the end of that issue, however, we find out that Shara has, of course, evaded capture on the Star Destroyer and has started to scrap together intel to send back to the rebellion in the future. She says, Kes, come get me soon. And that's the arc. So I think next we're going to go on to some character descriptions, and I don't know who's doing that. It's not in the outline. Is it me? Is it Emma? Is it
Eric? You go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, if
Sure.
you want to take it. Yeah.
We're live. This is live TV. Let's do it. So a couple characters we want to talk about here. You mentioned Tyler, that Lando really did kind of went up a couple rungs in your personal rankings on this series, and it's really clear to see why. You can tell that Charles Soule loves Lando, and the things you want to wonder is where does Lando's true allegiance lie at this point in the story? You know, he's getting calls from Bib Fortuna. He's saying he's going to give Rebel code to the Hutts because they're hitting his buddy. So we kind of gotta wonder that. Do you guys have any initial ideas about just gut reaction? Where do you think Lando's at in this arc?
I think at this point in the story, I think Lando's true allegiance is to himself, and
Totally.
I think that he is just like Han, and in some instances like Afra, but Afra doesn't have Leia and Luke and the Rebel Alliance to kind of be their guiding star. So I think at this point his allegiance is to himself and to his friends. That is what I love so much about this arc for him. Is I really enjoyed the passion and the compassion he had for Lobot. It was a really nice character depth that I really don't think that I have seen. I mean, it might be in Legends. Jared can probably let me know, but I don't really remember him getting this much face time and then this much of an in-depth introspective look at his personality. So that's that little arc right there is what has really been able to have me shine it, and it starts to, I can see the path now as to why he is trusted come the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, which brings us to another question. Emma, I want to hear from you here. I think a lot of people could, especially in like the older times when we didn't have as much content, could think that Lando and Han were pretty similar, right? We got the smuggler, but he actually has a heart of gold. They literally wear the same vest at some points. Like, it can kind of be 1-to-1. But obviously at this point in Star Wars history, Han is not available for character growth. And Lando is kind of going on his own journey. How do you think this particular arc in this series is helping us differentiate Lando's character journey from Han's that he takes really between episodes 4 and 5?
Yeah, so I think that the main difference between the two is that the rebellion kind of had to trust Han right away. I mean, you know, he was going to rescue Leia, so that kind of made him like really trusted in their eyes, I guess, even though he was a little reluctant.
Yeah,
but
had a lot of street cred coming in. Sure,
he did. But with Lando, it's like he's almost like a reluctant, like he reluctantly joined the rebellion. It felt like, and he has to really build up his trust, and it's gonna be hard to trust him because really Han being in Carbonite is all his fault. Darth Vader being in Cloud City is all his fault, even though he says it's not my fault. It is his fault.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, their stories are definitely different. I think this comic sort of helps us see that Lando, you know, even though if you just watch the movies, it seems as though he's trusted like right away, but that's not actually the case. He's sort of building up trust in these comics.
Right. And of course, we also see him eroding that trust, as we said earlier, when he's literally making all these calls to the cartels and to all these people saying, hey, we just went through a giant arc. We made a sacrifice of a Pathfinder. Shara is missing, all to make a new code. And he might immediately sell that code. Jacob, do you think that we're going to see in these comics Lando actually betray the rebellion in some fashion to Jabba the Hutt?
I don't think it's likely. I say that, but we don't know what's going to happen in War of the Bounty Hunters. It's very likely that maybe he turns heel there. I think it's just a little bit more of comics misdirection. Comic books always have to kind of, give you that cliffhanger that doesn't really go anywhere. Just like Lobot's going to die. It's like next issue's like Lobot's fine.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think, Lando definitely has his priorities. I think it's definitely Lando number 1, Lando's friends and Lobot number 2. And I think there's a good in him after that. But so like comparing it to like Lando Double or Nothing and like the Age of Rebellion Lando series or one shot, you definitely see that Lando has like that heart of gold in him, and like when he's kind of pressed on it, he'll definitely try and help other people out. He's putting like in the Age of Rebellion series, he like basically squanders his money to try and pay all the people around him. Was there a little peer pressure? Yeah, but he's still giving up something. Like, he doesn't have to do that. He could pay, like, he goes to another mining facility and there's slaves there. He's like, well, I can't do that. I can't, like, just enslave people to make a ton of money. Like, I have to treat people right. So he, like, frees them, and then he comes back. Yeah, he basically comes back and gives all of his money away to make sure the people in Cloud City are paid well and enjoy their time there. So I think, similar to Han, he has that, like, tough guy front, but when you really push him, I think he's still going to be the good person at heart. So I don't think he's going to betray them. And if he does, it's going to be something where, like, he betrays them, but it turns out to be, like, inconsequential or something like that. I don't think it's going to be a big deal in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that's the case because then, you kind of build the argument of, well, how did they trust him to become a general in episode 6?
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Not that it's hard to become a general in the rebellion, as you've seen, like, it's kind of willy-nilly, but I wanted to, Jacob, quick follow-up. If he does betray him to Jabba, will we ever see Jabba in a flashback as jacked as that hut we saw in Darth Vader today?
Oh, wow, man. I mean,
guys,
probably
if you want to see a jacked hut.
Crazy. Yeah. It's like, I thought Gracchus was, like, pretty wild with his, like, metal, like, robot legs.
Weak sauce.
But yeah, no, this, like, hut has, like, a 12-pack and ripped arms.
It's crazy.
So. Yeah, I had a thought on Lando. I think, I will say, I still think he doesn't betray them, and if he does, it's inconsequential. But we have been seeing some seeds of, like, how we get to Return the Jedi. Like, we stole, like, an Imperial shuttle, I think, in the first arc, and I'm assuming that's gonna be the one they used to go to the second Death Star.
Oh, the Tidarian.
Oh, the Tidarian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're nerds. Look at
that.
Yeah.
Maybe, obviously the Empire knows that the rebels are coming. Maybe the rebels' plans are leaked out because Lando leaked the code, and that's how they know to throw the shields up and everything. So I don't know.
That's
interesting.
That's
Maybe.
a hot take right there.
I still don't think so, though, but it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, Lando definitely opens up a lot of possibilities. But of course, he is one of the probably two main characters in this arc. We're going backwards a little bit. We have the lead of the first two issues, and Emma, I want to throw this one to you, with Commander Zara, who I think really could have fallen into the trap, and the outline agrees, of potentially being, like, just a gender bent Tarkin, where it was not really any characterization. It's all Tarkin, just with a new coat of paint. How do you think that she operates more than that? Even though she's only given 2 issues, it feels like she does a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think first of all, we see her be a little bit more vulnerable than Tarkin, with her disappointment and failing her mission, and then sort of being cast aside by him. So we get to see her vulnerability. And Tarkin, we never really see him being vulnerable. All we see is this, like, tough guy and straight faced. And we never see any of that. So that's the first difference I can think of. Second of all, I think that she stands apart in that she's not necessarily focused on the big picture. She's really focused on getting her revenge. Not for the Empire, but for herself. And I don't think Tarkin would do that. Reputation. Yeah, Tarkin wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's
so
a great
do you
point.
think, Emma, her voyage over to the Rebel fleet, do you think that was personal? And or do you think that was as much of a mind game for Leia as it was for her own ability to exact revenge?
That's an interesting question. I think 100% it was for herself, because we see her make the longer journey to, I think it was like the 4th fleet was Leia's, even though they were closer to, I think it was the 7th. I could be totally wrong.
No, you're right.
Even though they were closer to the other one, meaning that the other one escaped. So yeah, it was definitely personal. And I think when she returned from the rebel ship, and the Imperial officer was like, "Oh, you didn't kill her, so you failed your mission." And she's like, "Well, not really, because I've totally, like, caused her psychological torment." But I don't really necessarily think. I think that that's her excuse for what happened. I think she was disappointed that she didn't kill her, but she doesn't want to show that vulnerable side again, because that's not what Tarkin would do. She's thinking a lot about what Tarkin would do, so she wouldn't be vulnerable and say, "Yeah, I'm disappointed that I didn't kill her, but I did injure her."
Yeah, of course, that's not her only time she's failed to kill someone on a mission. We see very, very pressingly in her kind of flashback arc buildup that she fails to kill the totally not High Republic character Bernium Rowe.
Oh yes, no relation to
none at
another
all.
row.
So Tyler, do
There
you
it
think?
is.
No, all right, a little bit. Tyler, do you think that she actually learned a lesson from that mission with Bernie and Rowe on how important it is to follow orders to the letter, or whatever lesson Tarkin was trying to do, or do you think, based on her later exploits, it kind of just washed over her?
So this is the only part of the arc that I was a little disappointed in, because
It's the 0.5.
she proves herself to be smart and be able to read between the lines on Iriadu, and that not only was Tarkin out sending them out on the hunt, that they were also hunting each other. And then for her, without, I'm going to chalk it up as arrogance, but it's not really displayed that way. I'm not really sure how the person who is smart enough to pass the mission on Iriadu isn't smart enough to realize that I need to kill this person. If he says bring me his head, which is exactly what he said on Iriadu, why I was a little disappointed that turned out that way. So in my head, I'm talking up to just arrogance, that she's just on the the fast path to her own ship and her own command, and she got a little bit arrogant, and I think that's where Tarkin's influence really does show off on her, because Tarkin was completely arrogant. And
evacuate in our moment of triumph.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I'm explaining it in my head, is that is Tarkin's influence on her and her arrogance. But I was a little disappointed with that whole arc of not killing Bernie and Rowe. So yeah, I do think that she has had a long time to sit and think and learn the lesson that if you're going to do something right, do it yourself and do it face to face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm honestly, that's a great transition to kind of our wrap up thought about her here. That I want to throw to Jacob. Do you think that it is exactly that arrogance that's going to be Zara's downfall, or do you think that her demise, again, potentially going forward, is going to be maybe another trait we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, I think with Zara, we're talking about how she's differs from Tarkin. I think she's a little bit, she definitely has those influences, but I think she's a little rougher around the edges due to the fact that, Tarkin was her mentor and he died. So,
yeah.
I don't
That's
think
rough,
she's
man.
she doesn't like she doesn't. I don't think she fully understands what he was about. Like she's
F's in the chat for Tarkin, by the way.
She gets like that surface level, but I don't think she fully understands his strategy and his thought process. But I do think it's gonna be, it's like poetry, it rhymes. I think it's gonna be something similar where it's her hubris is what lets her be defeated in the end. I just had the thought where, her ship, Tarkin's Will, we didn't really talk about it, is a ship that was docked near the Death Star, and when it blew up, like a giant tear was ripped down the hole, and you can see it in the image, kind of on the front side of the ship. It's like that her officer's like, hey, should we fix this? She's like, absolutely not. It's like, it's symbolic. Like we have to remember all those who died on the Death Star, and the whole ship's crewed by people who lost someone on the Death Star.
There's a big hole in your ship.
Yeah, it's like I honestly think it's like, we're like, a fighter's gonna be like, oh, she just left the hole there. We're just gonna drop some bombs and just gonna blow up her. Yeah, like I think something along those lines where she is so like wrapped up in her motives and this story that she's constructed, and that she's gonna forget the fact that having a hole in your ship makes it a little bit more vulnerable to being blown up. So
yeah,
Luke needed a hole the size of a Womp
my prediction,
and you got one several hundred meters long.
Leia is going to be her downfall.
I think
I like that.
That's definitely how they're setting it up. Yeah.
Cool. That's kind of like, again, this arcs have so many great characters, and I think that's something that Charles Soule has always excelled at. But those are kind of the two big ones we wanted to get to. Tyler, hit us with those massive discussion questions. Let's get it. Let's get into it. Let's go deep.
Yeah. So we're going to start with the MVP of this arc, despite what Jared says in the chat about how he didn't like Lando's characterization in this series, and then completely disappears from the chat without explaining himself. Should they have told Lando their plan? Like how hard was it to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Trust 3PO. And Lobot's going to be fine. Emma, what are your thoughts on that?
it's like the Holdo question, right? You
Yeah.
know, do you share your
Mhm.
full plans or do you not? And I think that they were right in not sharing his full plan, because you really think that Lando is going to go along with letting Lobot do that? I don't think so. So
Mhm.
it's almost like, you know, spare your people the details and let it work it out on its own. I kind of think that can work sometimes, and in this case, it kind of saved them some time with Lando sort of withholding Lobot, I think.
But
Yeah.
could you have seen a situation where after the plan is enacted, being like, hey, trust me. Even if Leia just sits there and says, trust me, I've got this. I still feel like there could have been a little bit more, maybe not a complete exposition dump, but maybe just a little bit of more of like, hey, I'm Leia of Alderaan. I got this.
That's true. I mean, Leia, you know, she was very steadfast in saying like, okay, the rebellion needs this, and the rebellion, you know, this is bigger than just Lobot or just Lando. And I think maybe, you know, she's one of the most sort of trustworthy people, and I think that she can be very soothing as well, just in her personality. And yeah, maybe if she just took Lando aside and said, hey, it's gonna be okay. You know, we've got this. C-3PO, you know, he might be able to get this droid, you know, totally obsolete, make this droid totally obsolete so that he can make up the codes himself. And that if we can just have Lobot for a little bit, this could make a huge difference.
Mhm.
And I think that would have played up to Lando's ego a little bit.
Yeah. I also think there's a possibility that as I was reading this, I thought that, you know, if Leia exposes their plan in front of the other droid, right? I was just reading through those last couple of pages here real quick, just kind of make sure I got the context right. You know, does that droid change a variable in as 3PO is working? Like, does other stuff
That's fair.
happen? Like, and
Yeah.
I also think that Leia Organa is not in the practice of promising things that she can't deliver. So I think that if it hadn't worked, then Lando was like, you told me he'd be okay. And then he's not. I don't think she wanted to promise that until it was done. So I do think it is. I love the comparison to Holdo, actually, because I think that's a really interesting comparison I hadn't thought of before, frankly. But I think it works in a similar way, that this is, despite the fact that it's a bunch of smugglers and robots and Star Wars, like, it is a military still. And there is still kind of a order of command that has to be followed so chaos doesn't erupt. And I think Leia's handling it like a commander, and Lando wants to be in charge all the time himself. So I think it worked out as it had to, and Leia was trying to minimize the variables. But I see why Lando was frustrated. I think we can get it.
Yeah, that is a very valid point, and you've changed my mind on that. Good job.
Yeah.
So
9.7. Let's go.
There we go. So, Jacob, I'm going to toss this next question to you. In issue 9, I think. Let me go back and just double check. In issue 9, we see Lando kind of take the Pathfinders into the undercover, and we get a little bit of greater meta commentary on colonialism in Star Wars, specifically Needle. How do you feel? How do we feel about that in the context of this universe, and potentially if we want to just briefly comment on it, just having that coincidentally be written in 2021?
Yeah, like, I mean, we could spend episodes upon episodes talking about like the political and societal and all the implications upon this topic. I think it's definitely a good time to be talking about this with just an increased awareness in stories and how they affect people of just more persecuted races or religions or sexualities, gender, whatever, trying to touch on these issues that a Western audience doesn't normally think of. Like, I don't, my family's like white and German. I don't think about how like being colonized affects me in my past, but being exposed to this shows how those effects in certain ways. So like, I definitely started picking up on Star Wars with like Light of the Jedi, and even strangely enough harder with A Test of Courage, which is a middle grade novel. I think it hit really hard with the implications of going out and reaching out to occupied or sorry, not occupied worlds, but inhabited worlds versus uninhabited worlds, and what the moral ramifications of these are. I think it's great. So that novel was written by Justine Ireland, who is a black woman. So she has some of those personal ties to this. This is a comic book written by Charles Soule, who's a white guy. And I think it's great that he tries to tell the story. I really hope that we had a diverse team of people behind him trying to make sure he's educated on the topic, because, I mean, let's be honest. Like I said, we're not as greatly affected by this in our past. So we can't speak about this as honestly and from a place of knowledge and education. But I am really happy that we are starting to see, even if it's something smaller, I'm happy to see this kind of commentary come into the Star Wars universe, because Star Wars is for everyone. And the fact that we're able to highlight these stories and show these different aspects of commentary beyond good versus evil. We're talking about these complex issues and introducing these issues to people of all ages, I think is fantastic. And I'm glad we're moving in that direction. And we're able to handle something a little bit more complex.
Yeah, that's very well said. I agree. I wish that we saw more of this into Star Wars, and I hope that we see more of it in Star Wars later down the line with some really diverse storytellers, because I think that there's so much here that is not only interesting in Star Wars, but is also a great connection in our real world. And I think we could all use some more of that in our lives.
Yeah, I think to bring up kind of what Jacob said earlier, the fact that there are more people than just like the white guy that made this comic, but there are more people that are listening at least to other people too about these stories is evident. You can't escape it, nor should we, in a lot of the modern storytelling. And even though it was used, like you said, Tyler, in kind of a meta way, in like the idea of them taking this artifact that was very, very kind of special, in using it in that way wasn't maybe necessarily the focus of the issue, but I think at least bringing that to their attention was important. It reminds me of like the Calicori and Rebels, how Hera's family kind of, again, you don't understand us necessarily, even though you're an art critic, you're an art enthusiast, you don't understand what this actually means. I think that's also very important to tell people, hey, even if you can appreciate something, if it doesn't mean something to you based on your background or your experience, you still need to listen to those that do. And then, I mean, come on, it's Star Wars, we adore it. So if we're going to learn anything anywhere, it might as well be in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
100%.
I think this is a perfect example of art imitating life. And I hope that the purpose behind this, and I think the end result is, if it doesn't, it starts to open people's eyes in the sense of thinking about it, at least in this fictional world, and I'm hoping that it's used as a way to potentially open eyes into other things, because art does imitate life, and we write and people write this and do movies and comics and any type of art as a way, I hate to underscore it by saying this, but as a backdoor way into telling people about things, about other things, about real world things. And so if it gives people an opportunity to see it in this universe, in this world, hopefully it'll allow them over time, to maybe think about it in the real world as well. So it was done well. Personally, from my opinion, I mean, some of these things can be a little heavy, which can kind of ruin the point and drown out the rest of the things going on. But I think this was done well. It was illustrated well. The art was amazing. The passion in his face, and I mean, I could hear him in my mind's eye when I was reading those panels where he is ultimately sacrificing himself. I can hear all the emotion in his words. And it was it was a really, really great imagery from the creative team of this book.
Yeah, something I think about, like, in addition to this line of commentary and storytelling, is something that it reminds me of. There was a Living Force episode, I think probably around a year ago now, about all of the black authors in Star Wars history, and there was like 3, like legitimately between Legends and canons, it was like, there's been like 3 black authors in like 40 years of writing books, and just like between that time and now, we still have a long way to go, but just the amount of like, I mean, obviously Justina Ireland's writing for us now. We have, but like the amount of like BIPOC authors in like, just look at like Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. Like, I feel like a quarter of those people were, ethnic minorities, non-white authors, which is, we're definitely, I think we're heading in the right direction. And the fact that, couple that with the fact that we're telling more complex storytelling and more complex concepts in our Star Wars stories, I think we're heading in the right direction. Just hopefully it continues to go that way.
Love it.
Well,
agreed.
I want to go ahead and we have one final question, and I'm gonna try to lighten the mood a little bit here. So I'm gonna go around the room here. I'm gonna start with Emma, and the first thing that comes to your mind, we see this Imperial Museum, and the Imperial world and Imperial colonization, as we just discussed, is large. So I'm sure there are a lot of other interesting artifacts in the vaults of this Imperial Museum. So I want everybody to go to the room. We'll start with Emma. What is one other item or artifact that you think in your Star Wars universe, this item is also in that Imperial Museum? Emma, you go first.
All right, I really love this question. And this legitimately is the first thing that comes to my mind. I hope it doesn't sound too silly, but it's gonna make you guys laugh. I think Snoke's hat is there.
Yes, Emma.
I don't know why it was the first thing that came to my mind, but it was.
So does he break into the museum and steal the hat or something, or how does that work?
The Drengir did it.
Okay. I will accept that answer. Thank you.
I love it.
My answer is all over the place. Oh my god.
All right.
All right.
Jacob, your turn to attempt to follow up that amazing answer.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was really just disappointed because like I was hunting for Easter eggs. I'm like, I'm sure there's something in the background. There's really not. There's it's pretty like vague, indescript drawings. I don't know. There's gotta be like, I'm gonna call it, there's the mega holocron. There's just gonna be like a massive like 3-foot cubed holocron, Jedi holocron somewhere in a box. It's like Indiana Jones style. They just like boxed it up and just shoved it back. No one's gonna know about it. Like no one's gonna ever find it, but hey, somewhere there's a Raider in a Lost Ark. Dr. Afra's gonna find it. Mark my words. If Afra breaks in this museum in an arc or two, I would love that. Just like her, just like throwing junk around. Oh, I hit my mic. Oh lord.
Okay.
Just her throwing junk around and everything. It's like, oh, this
She'd
is the one
lose
thing I
it.
needed. Yeah.
She'd lose her mind.
All right, Eric.
Yeah, mine is gonna be. I had to Google this to make sure it's the image I'm thinking of. In the early concept art for Chancellor Lena So of the High Republic, she has this like really ornate kind of like headpiece. And I think the headpiece is in there because I think that when Palpatine took power, or even in the Republic, they started to slowly try to phase out everything that was going on in the High Republic so people wouldn't remember the glory days and only think of Palpatine's power. So I think he hid the ornamentation of the High Republic back in the vaults of the museum.
Oh,
Very
I like
nice.
that.
So
Very nice. Mine
yes.
is nothing specific, because I can't think of it. I can't think of it. Jacob's pulling up the
there
on
it
the
is.
fly producing
Look at
here.
that.
Pulling up the
Yeah, I think
headband
that's
right
what
there.
it is. God,
Why
it's
not
such a
have
good design.
why not have her something from her pets in there as well? I mean, while you're at it, I mean,
The actual taxidermied pets? That'd be
yes,
great.
exactly.
They are
exactly.
also in there.
I mean, coming from the vibes of this museum, they would 100% be in there.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's better.
Earlier, I believe it's an issue. It's actually the first issue, issue 7. The Emperor is talking to Vader and mentions Thrawn. So for my artifact, I don't know what it is, but it's something Chiss related. Something he has brought
Oh.
back. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody except for him knows what it is. But it's kind of hidden in plain sight of something that is extremely valuable to the Chiss, and something that gives all of a lot of their secrets, and he's just going to hide it right there in the museum. So
Ooh, okay. What if it's like a ticket stub from the art museum he went to with Aralani on their date in Chaos Rising? He's like, this is an artifact that's very important.
The sparring sticks, that's exactly that's exactly what's in there.
Are these Triss weapons? Yeah, they're totally not from a date. Yes.
All right. So just like with all of our Easter eggs, we are going to end with some amazing Easter eggs. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jacob, who did great. Just first off, great research on this. I'm really impressed with all this.
So much
Jacob,
on Wikipedia. Yeah.
Go.
All right.
Easter eggs.
So Jared or Trev, someone who is crazy about Star Wars, this one's for you. All right, so Tarkin's will used to be known as the Fortitude, which the ship's existence is more or less the definition of that word. I don't know, thought that was kind of cool. Zara's background heavily ties into Tarkin by James Luceno. She goes to the Carrion Plateau from that book and has to hunt a Virmuk, which is also the same thing he had to hunt in his coming-of-age trials. Bernie Moreau is obviously shares a surname with Markian Rowe, the Nile villain, and is said to use the rhetoric of the Nile. However, there's pretty sure there's no relation between the two, as he is a Krukian and Markian. We don't know what his species is, but it's definitely not that.
Hey, if we've learned anything, in the Star Wars universe in the last 3 years, you don't have to be blood to be related. Okay,
that's true. Yeah,
that's right.
There's
Bernie Skywalker.
Definitely, he is.
So there we go. Yeah. All right. So Vader mentions Tarkin taught him a lesson on Chandra's folly. This is a reference to the Dark Lord of the Sith comic series, where Tarkin is basically told to hunt Vader and test him. So next in the museum, they recently brought in artifacts from the Cachirio ruins on Kashyyyk. This is actually the location of the battle from Revenge of the Sith. So where Yoda and Chieftain Tarful are hanging out. That is that place. Yeah. The Imperial Museum. Okay, first appeared in Tales of the Jedi, Freedom Nad Uprising, issue number 1 in 1994, and was then known as the Galactic Museum. Next, the Pathfinders is which is the group of soldiers with Cass Dameron and all the others like Needle trying to invade the museum. That's the same group of soldiers that actually led the ground assault on Endor with Han in Return of the Jedi.
Sick.
Next, Lando references Lobot's past before he was mostly machine. This story is, of course, told in our co-host Caleb's favorite comic series, the Lando miniseries, which is also written by Charles Soule. So for Starlight Squadron, there are some people that you obviously know, like Wedge and Charbet, and there's a few that have never appeared in anything else, but there are some that have previous canon appearances. One is Lulo Lampar, who is from the Shattered Empire and Poe Dameron comic miniseries. So he not only flies with Charbet, but he also flies with her son Poe. So very cute there. Next is Evan Verlaine, who is from the Princess Leia miniseries by Mark Waid and is also featured in Chuck Wendig's Aftermath Life Debt. Next is Mart Martin, not Matt Martin, but Mart Martin, who is from Rebels. He's the dude that flies the whatever, what's his name? The dude from Shadows of the Empire. He flies his ship, and everyone freaked out when that ship showed up. Did my Zoom just crash? Oh Lord, I might be flying solo right now. Well, no one else is going to have any... Holy cow. I don't even know. No one's going to have any commentary until that comes back up, but it's okay, because we're in Easter eggs. If you're live with me on YouTube, I am sorry. Looks like I haven't dropped any frames. Anyways, we're going to keep on trying to go here, and hopefully they come back. Mart Martin, anyways, is from Iron Squadron, I believe, but he was in the same ship as Dash Rendar. That's the name I was looking for. Yeah, so he's in this squadron as well. And then the last 2 Easter eggs, holy cow, I really wish Zoom would fix itself right now, are, oh, are we back? Can you guys hear me again?
Can you hear us, Jacob?
Yeah, wow, that was scary. Cool. I was stalling there for a second, my Zoom went down, but I was in Easter eggs, so I didn't need to, you guys didn't need to say anything. So, you guys can hear me now?
Here we are, buddy.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
I think I can hear you in the YouTube, but I
Interesting.
can't hear you in the
Interesting.
Zoom.
in the actual
How
Zoom.
about now?
Oh, here we go.
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
That
we're good.
was terrifying. My Zoom just like
That'd be a fun edit.
minimized and started spinning. I was like, oh no. All
yeah,
right.
you're still sounding a little choppy in our Zoom call, but we're getting near the end. We're gonna make it.
All
We're
right.
gonna make it.
I don't think I'm dropping any frames for YouTube, so I think we're okay. But anyways, 2 more Easter eggs. There's the show notes. The most hardcore of Easter eggs. C3PO's Treland 3 comms module comes from the Twin Stars of Kira RPG supplement book from the West End Games.
That's
Whatever.
insane.
And
That's an insane pull.
and then his AA1 Verbo Brain first appears in the Courtship of Princess Leia in like 94 or something like that. Again, literally, if you want to find these, just like anytime you see a proper noun, Google it or look it up on Wikipedia and you're going to find something. So there you go. Yeah, so that is Easter eggs. So are we ready to go on to our re-rating?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right, so I think I went first last time, so I guess I can go first the second time. And as is typical fashion for me, I'm going to increase my rating.
There you go.
I'm going to bump it to a 9. After discussing it further, Zara is a more interesting villain to me after discussing her intricacies. I thought Leia was a badass in this as well. And I love all the Shara Bay and Cass Dameron content. It's really great. And also that scene in issue 12 with Leia and Kes just really melted my heart. So, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this volume. And I think I've been really surprised by the Star Wars mainline this year, and pleasantly so. And I just hope it continues to totally just do its thing for the bounty hunt, War of the Bounty Hunters. I don't know why.
There
that
we go.
escaped
We
me,
got
but
there.
Yeah, there it is. Yes.
All right. I'll go next in the
Yeah, sure.
ratings. I gave it an 8.75. I'll also bump up to a 9. And I think it is in large part, Emma, to what you just alluded to, which was issue 12, which we didn't talk a ton about, is one of my favorite single issues of the year. The quiet issue with Kes and Leia is such a nice emotional kind of difference from the high action and espionage and pulling guns on each other of the rest of it, which is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But I think all in all, it's just a really solid arc that I actually liked quite a bit more on the second read than the first. So if you're keeping up and you maybe didn't love this as much on the first one, highly recommend giving it a second read. It gets even better. Tyler, what about you?
I don't think Tyler's in the Zoom call right now.
Tyler, I miss you deeply. Jacob, what about you?
Anyways, so I think I'm also going to increase my score. I'm going to go up to an 8.5. I honestly don't remember what I scored at first, so I'll remember when I edit this tomorrow or
Something like that.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, up a little bit.
Yes.
I do think Zara, after our conversation, is more interesting. It's a little light on Luke for me. He like basically shows up for like 3 panels in this entire arc, and I don't think you need him. Definitely not. But I do like a little bit, like at least put him in the background somewhere. But yeah, it's definitely very enjoyable. I'm excited to see where this goes next, even though it's gonna be War of the Bounty Hunters for the next like 5 months. But hey, I did very much enjoy this comic, and I think I think I'll probably definitely reread this when we get a little bit more, like maybe after like an arc or two, I'll kind of just go back and reread all of it. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I don't think we have Tyler still. is still in. I don't know if he knows he's gone. Is the thing.
He does know he's gone. We talked about it, but you know what? If we don't get Tyler back, do we have any other last thoughts before we get on out of here? This was, first of all, before we do though, I want to say just a quick personal thank you guys for having me on. This has been, your guys' show has been so much fun to watch, and this has been some really great comics. So thank you for not bringing me on for something bad, as I'm sure Legends Look Back is going to try to do to me in Ruins of Dantooine when that comes around. So this is a blast though, and I think let's Emma, do you want to, I guess, pitch what the next roundtable in this giant event that's coming up that Utini's putting together? What are we doing next?
Absolutely. So yes, first of all, Eric, thank you for coming on. This was a blast. We love having guests on, and you especially are just super fun to talk to.
Bless you.
So for our next roundtable, this is a gigantic Utini crossover in the style of War of the Bounty Hunters, but not really. We are talking about Shadows of the Empire, which has comics and a book and a game, and there's a soundtrack apparently.
Soundtrack's very good.
So yeah, there's like a vinyl, isn't there?
I have the vinyl downstairs.
I'm totally gonna listen to it while I read all of this stuff. So we have our roundtable on Shadows of the Empire and Shadows of the Empire Evolution, which are the two comic miniseries on June 9th. And then on June 10th, on Legends Look Back, we will be discussing the Shadows of the Empire novel, which will be very interesting and tons of fun. And I believe we'll also be talking about the game somewhere, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Does it all hold up? Tune in to find out what they actually say in Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, so Legends Look Back is doing the novel. We're doing the comics. Game night on Fridays. I think someone's playing the game. I don't know who that is yet, but I've been told the game night's involved. And then also Star Wars Archives, I believe, is talking about like the action figures and all the merchandise that came out with it. But just a quick thing on that. So there are a few different comic books, and to clarify, we are covering the Shadows of the Empire miniseries. We can see issue 1 up there right now. We're also covering the Evolution miniseries, which is a sequel to the original series. I looked around a little bit. I think probably the best way for you to purchase this, which I, of course, put in the description for YouTube, is the Shadows of the Empire Omnibus. That comes with both of those series, and it also comes with the Emperor's Hand Mara Jade miniseries, which we're not going to be talking about, but hey, I mean, at that price point, you might as well just get the extra stuff anyways.
Come on, just do it.
Yeah,
just do it.
Yeah, I have Amazon and Comixology links down there if you want to pick up either of those. But yeah, I believe it is what we're going to be covering. I believe is 11 issues in total between the two series. So that will be that, and yeah, we're really excited to talk about that. It's a special moment because it is Jared's last Legends book, I believe, that he had to read. And
ever.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
Claps for Jared. Claps for Jared for his crazy Legends. I mean, obviously there's Trev and then there's Jared, but I mean, again, he might not be on Trev level, but he's still above everyone else in terms of Legends knowledge, as far as I'm aware. So
claps in the chat for Jared.
Yeah, I believe
100%.
I saw that we had 4 people in the Zoom, so I thought Tyler's back, but now we're down to 3 again. So
but now he might be back.
Tyler. Yeah.
Nope. He's talking. I don't hear him.
No, I don't hear him.
All right.
Well, all we have left is an outro. This outline. Can we crawl to the end of it? Can we make it?
Give me like 3 seconds. Someone vamp for me real quick.
Vamping. Cosmic Force. It's not a chore. Talking Star Wars.
I didn't say
and
freestyle rap, but hey, I will take it, honestly, man.
I was about to drop a beat for you, but I don't think I can.
Is that this doesn't happen?
Oh, Tyler's
this doesn't happen when Eric's not on the show. Well, Eric, you're trying to take this from
somehow. Tyler has returned.
All right, so that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Cosmic Force. We encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/Discord. Go to our Patreon at patreon.com/ patreon.com/Utini. Thank you to Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sanders on our Jedi High Council, Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilersen on our Alliance High Command. Thanks again to all of my hosts tonight, and I'm going to get out of here before I lose my internet again. Thank you all for joining us, and may the Force be with you.